Okay, so this video wasn't really planned by any means, so don't expect crazy lighting, studio, bumpy royalty-free background music, or even a script, so I apologize if I'm rambling. But I took the GH5 soul searching, or I guess you could say body searching, because I'm in between camera systems for my professional grade work. This one with me up the shores of Lake Superior on a little road trip, and I put it through its tests with everything the GH5 isn't supposed to do. Now granted, I wasn't paid for this, I'm not an affiliate, so no money is really being made here when it comes to me making this video. But the reason I say I'm doing some body searching is because, well, I'm in between camera systems for my professional grade gear. So if you've been with this channel for any amount of time, you'd have seen that I've been using the Alpha series for my money-making bodies. So the A7R Mark II for photo and video, and the A7S Mark II for video and photo. But as time went on, I sold out of that system and went to the L-Mount Alliance and picked up the Micro Four Thirds system as my backup. So that's where the GH5 came in. I sold out of the L-Mounts because my S5 developed a shutter issue at a very low count. Could have gotten a service, I'm sure it was one off, didn't want to go that route. Needless to say, I sold all of my professional grade cameras, but I kept the GH5. Now, why can't I use this for my professional grade shoots? I mean, in short, I can. As we know, this is a video capable machine, and at its price point of $400 to $800, there's no camera that can match it when it comes to hybrid shooting. And to me, it's crazy that this camera is this cheap these days. I'm not trying to drive up the price, but I feel like the market has tricked people, including myself, into thinking that we need full-frame megapixel monster cameras every time we're out shooting. That's just not the case. But I feel that's why this camera's coming in so cheap these days. I mean, granted, there is the GH5 Mark II and the GH6, but I'd pick up the GH5 because it's still a future-proofing camera when we're talking about photo and video. It's the smallest of the bunch. And again, the price point is just ridiculous for this camera and what you get out of it. At the time of release, most mirrorless systems out there, when they were pushing their new innovation, were allowing things like 422 at 8-bit to be used in their cameras, but externally. With the GH5, you could do everything. 422 10-bit color depths, broadcast bit rates, in-body stabilization, anamorphic modes, all within the camera, which was insane at 2017 and still is today. So on the video side of things, this camera is a steal. But when people talk about the GH5 and its photo capabilities, they either push it under the rug or undermine it because it's a Micro Four Thirds system with contrast-based autofocus. So yeah, it's going to pulse when you're focusing, and it's not going to be so good in low light. So that's why my last trip was so important, because I wanted to dispel all of those myths with the GH5 and put it through its tests. Needless to say, I think the GH5 did a fantastic job in low light, focusing on fast-moving subjects like wildlife shooting, and took tack-sharp images even at 20 megapixels on a Micro Four Thirds sensor. Now, let me explain. For low light on the system, of course, it's a Micro Four Thirds sensor, so it's not the biggest in the world, and inherently, full frame cameras will do better in low light, right? That's not to say you can't throw a speed booster on the GH5 or have a tripod with you and achieve what you need to get. Being that the camera has in-body stabilization, it really helps out with the shakes, and you can lower your shutter speed when needed, and the lighting isn't ideal. It's only 20 megapixels, right? Well, that's more than enough for social media posting. Portrait works, like I always say, with almost every camera I use on this channel. And if you did need more megapixels, you can always stitch your images together or run brackets. Then you can also pull more dynamic range when needed. Now, when I think of needing megapixels, generally I am doing landscape work. And when I do portraits, all those megapixels don't really help when little Timmy has a zit on his face and he doesn't want to highlight it with all that detail. So it's a win-win having a 20 megapixel sensor, because it is that sweet spot between having resolution without having too much. And if you did need more, there's all these little camera tricks you can do, which in turn makes you a better photographer, right? Now, let me talk about the autofocus, because it is contrast-based, which means it will pulse, and you'll notice that in video. Now, generally when I'm doing video, especially on the GH5, I'm in manual focus anyway. And the pulsing isn't awful, especially if you're in adequate lighting. But again, I want to focus more on the photo side of it, because I feel like this camera is overlooked for photography, especially because you have a weather sealed body, continuous shooting up to 12 frames per second. And it's so lightweight. When you throw on a wildlife lens, I feel like you can go all day long without succumbing to having to carry around a full frame body with a battery grip, a gimbal, whatever you need. This camera just feels so good in my hands that I can hold it all day in the woods. And when it comes to autofocus, it worked just fine for my casual birding. Now, granted, I'm not a wildlife expert, but I feel like the GH5 just simply didn't get in my way when I was trying to shoot fast-moving subjects. In fact, I think it did a good job. Also, something worth mentioning is I don't have any native Micro Four Thirds glass aside from my 12-32 pancake lens, which I wasn't doing wildlife with. When I went on my road trip, all I took was a 28mm adapted with a third-party 0.71 Viltrox adapter and my classic 4 thirds 70-300 lens. I lugged it around the woods all day without having to heave and hoe my gear. It feels good going to the woods with something this small. It's still coming out with crisp, usable images. So yeah, that's it. I just wanted to say, consider the GH5 as an awesome hybrid shooting choice. I mean, we know it does great video, but on the photo side of things, keep it in mind. I feel like this is one of the most flexible systems you can get on the market, with your wide variety of lenses that you can use with the system, with both native and third-party adapted lenses, and just how simply portable the GH5 can be with all the features you get. That's it. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Subscribe to the Instagram.